Mabuhay, Kamustika. This is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea. Today I'm starting a three-part series. It's going to be about stereotypes, negative ones about Filipinas, and we'll call it something like all Filipinas are scammers and more stinking thinking. Now, I'm prepared to try to clear the air of some of these ideas. Now, these are just my opinions, and the impetus behind this video is a conversation I had just a few days ago with somebody. I wanted to help them with finding a wife and answer questions about the Philippines. And this man called me, and it started out okay, but then he said, "Well, you know, I want to talk to your wife. Is she there?" He probably wanted to make sure I had one. So I said, "Well, my wife is upstairs. I'll go see if I can get her." So I got her to come down. She said hi, and they talked for about 10 or 15 minutes. My wife answered some questions, and then he paused and said, "Well, this can't be. How can this be?" And I said, "Well, she's right here with me. She's got her arm around my right shoulder." And he said, "Well, how do I know she's not on Skype and she's not really there?" So I offered to Skype with him so he can see us, recognize my voice. And he said, "Well, no, anybody can." Well, no, he said he didn't have Skype. And so I said, "Well, how about watch my YouTube channel? You'll recognize my voice, and you know this is who I am, and you'll learn about us." He said, "Well, no, anybody can make a YouTube channel and fake it." Well, he didn't believe that she was even with me, even though he wanted me to go get her. Yeah, you could have an elaborate hoax, but why go to the trouble? I mean, you have to have at least a little bit of faith that you're not going to get scammed. And I think his mind was so poisoned by these stereotypes to the point that there was no way he could believe that he could honestly find a Filipina. Now, I tried to change that, and hopefully he will look at this channel and come to a different change of heart. But I want to say this now because there's so much negativity out there. Yes, a lot of it is true with some women, but I just want to respond to some of these things. And it's going to take three parts to do that. Number one, they're all scammers, especially online. Now, online is about the only way a lot of Filipinos are going to find a foreigner husband. My wife certainly wasn't a scammer. I know other couples who would bristle at the thought that their wife was a scammer. They're very happy. They just went out and found a wife the new good old-fashioned way, got on the internet, asked questions, and found someone. One of them was way before that even. But my wife wanted me to focus on her. My number two was also somebody that wanted focus on her, but since she knew I had talked to Isa, she said, "Well, just talk to Isa. I hope you get married. You know, good luck. I hope you get married. If not, you know where to find me." That doesn't sound like a scammer to me. I did a video recently called Classy Filipinas. If you haven't seen it, you might want to watch sometime. They're not all like that. A real Filipina wants commitment. They want not game players. They figure an older American, older foreigner would be less likely to play games and more likely to commit, and that's what they want. Now, a good Filipina is willing to make a huge sacrifice to be your wife. They did a video called "The Profound Sacrifice Your Filipina Makes for You," and this is a massive sacrifice I would not make for myself. But yet many do it all the time, and you can see some of their videos on YouTube. They seem to be getting along well. Now, a Filipina has the fear of being scammed by a foreigner. I've had multiple Filipinas tell me just on the message board that I'm on, on Christian Filipina, that they're unhappy that guys said they were going to come visit them, and they were engaged, and they never showed up. And that's easy to do when you're so far away, but you got to have the integrity to do what you say. And man, if a guy says, "I'm going to come over and marry you," they've had a relationship for a while, and you get stood up, you got to lose your faith in foreigners if that happens enough. So I guess to me, I feel like that was kind of an unfair scam by the foreigner against the Filipina. Now, My wife did talk to this man, and she gave him some helpful advice to not get scammed, so I'll share that with you. She said, move on. If this woman asks for money, just move on. My wife never asked me for money. We argued about her taking my money even after we were married because she wanted to show me that she could take care of herself. And you've probably heard Filipinos have pride, and I think that's one way that they do. Also, if this woman shows nudity of any kind, cleavage, just dump her, run, move away. You don't need to waste any more time with her. You're setting yourself up for a scam. And if she says she loves you and you don't have some kind of deep level of commitment, then that's probably related to wanting some money and trying to butter you up. If you have a commitment, you're engaged, you're going to be married, and it really is, I love you, and you can say I love you in return, well, that's different. Also, my wife would advise, avoid the party girl. If she likes to party, she likes to drink, she likes to go to bars, just stay away from her. That's no good. I feel the same way about the drinking. Just drinking it of itself, it would be legalistic to call that sinful, so I'm not going to do that. I don't drink myself. I don't like the wasted calories, and I've been there and done that in my past. I just don't want to drink. My father was an alcoholic. I've seen what it can do. Nothing wrong with having a glass of wine or something. That's totally up to the people. But if they're into partying and you look at Facebook and they're drinking, I would just simply move on. There's plenty of good Filipinas out there. Now, I would say this about the age gap, and I've never said this before. Let's see. I would say that if it's going to be above a 30-year age gap, you're probably more likely to develop some kind of problems down the road. And it's hard for me to really describe this, scientifically. But like a 40 and a 50, that's probably more on the side of, hey, I need you to take care of me. It may not be the sexual relationship that it would with a younger age gap. Maybe it still is. I don't know. But 30 years is probably, it seems like a lot in the United States, but for a Filipina, probably not. And again, don't take this legalistically, but if it's going to be greater than 30 years, I think you're probably more inclined to run into some trouble. Can't really prove that, but I'm just going to throw that out there. You may have an opinion. You probably do have an opinion on some of the things I'm saying because some of them will be controversial throughout this series. Now, to help your chances, since I'm a Christian, I want to find somebody that was a Christian, somebody I could talk to about Christianity. So I narrowed it down to a certain denomination, and and we proceeded from there. I told her what I thought would make a marriage work, and we talked about that. You want to find somebody that's working to support her family. At least then she knows what it's like to get up in the heat and work in the heat and come home tired and give all that money away to her family. She's not likely selfish and keeping it for herself. That's going to mature her, and I think that's a good way. Also, I would look for somebody that dresses modestly, that isn't out there trying to show off her appearance. I know my wife sometimes would say, this is too sexy, I need to go put on something else. She didn't want me to see her in something where she thought that she might be giving me the wrong impression. And so that's being modest, and I appreciated that. Oh, there's another one you hear a lot. I heard this recently. A green card. A Filipina just wants a green card. A green card is a very desirable thing to have, and in order for her to better her life and the life of her family, a green card is going to be important. And we have it really good here. I was shocked when I visited my wife for the very first time to marry her in the Philippines. We were going to get married no matter what, and I saw her family, friends, and where she's from, where she went to school. A very valuable experience. But I was shocked at some of the living conditions. What we consider poverty here would probably be very desirable to someone out there, the things that we have and we consider ourselves poor with. Not all Filipinas want to or will risk leaving everything behind. to come marry a foreigner. And I think this shows a lot of character. I wouldn't be surprised if none of my wife's sisters do what she did and leave and marry a foreigner. Not every Filipina is dying to do this. I know that's a perception. They all can't wait to get out. That's not necessarily true. And even if you wanted to, that's a big step of faith. You don't know if the foreigner is going to beat you, which happens a lot. You don't know if he's going to be something he didn't say he was. He's going to be an abuser. He's going to be a cheater. He's going to be a drug user. They just don't know. A lot of these things don't come out when you're talking online. So it's a big risk, and not everybody wants to. So I'd like to think that the one that says, yeah, I'm willing to relocate, has thought it through a little bit and is willing to do that. And Filipinos have lived all over the world, so I think they probably are pretty good at adapting to that new location. Now, my wife is likely, I think, to return to the Philippines if I died, and we've talked about that. She said before, if my mom passes, that's all we have basically for relatives. There's my aunt. She's not over here that much, and if I'm not here, what does she have? She hasn't always desired to leave the Philippines and come to the United States. She knows what it's like here now, being here for about over 2.5 years. But, her heart's probably with the Philippines, and it wouldn't surprise me if she took care of things with our financial advisor, which is one of the things they're there to do, and help her set up, take care of the finances, that's a big thing, and go back to the Philippines. And if she does, well, she's going to be able to live like royalty, which is what I want for her, to be able to have the money to do anything she wants, go anywhere she wants. If she gets her U.S. citizenship, she'll be able to travel much more freely, and those are things I want her to do. I have no thought that she's just going to stay here for the rest of her life. She does have a soft spot in her heart for the Philippines, of course. Now, the last one, it's probably going to be about a dozen I'll cover, but the last one here for this first lesson is she doesn't love you. We need to take care of that. She doesn't love you. Well, how would anybody know if she loves me or not? How can they tell? And love is a kind of a ambiguous topic. It really shouldn't be. But I think love begins when you get married. Before you get married, you're trying to get to know each other if they're going to make a good partner. But there's no commitment before marriage. Once you are married, then I think that's where you have to be loving. That's when the love starts. Love is not an act. Love is not a sentiment, a feeling. Love is a choice. You choose to love or you choose to not love. 1 Corinthians 13 is called the love chapter in the Bible, and it's all about attitude if you read it carefully, and action towards your wife or anybody else. And there's nothing about what's in it for me. If I read that, 1 Corinthians 13, I think verses 4 through 8, there's nothing in there about what I get out of it. Because love is directed to the other person and what you can give them, how you can meet their needs. In fact, I'll read part of that. It bears all things. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. In fact, it starts out, it suffers long. Got to be patient to love someone, and you got to always hope and believe that things can change. And you bear with things when they aren't right, because it never fails. Your love never fails. You want to stick with them. Now, obviously, it takes two people to have a successful marriage, and if one person bails on you, then hopefully you can tell yourself, you've done all I can. There's nothing else I really could have done. And then you just try to learn from what you know didn't go right and what you can do better. But it takes two, and sometimes the other person doesn't reciprocate. But you want to know what love is? 1 Corinthians 13 is in the New Testament. There it is. So, if this woman is meeting your basic marital needs, companionship, sexual intimacy, basically, I don't know what else there is that you need to have as to get married. I mean, you can be single and have companionship, but it's not going to be the committed companionship. And you shouldn't be having sexual intimacy if you're not married, because the Bible says that is wrong. So if you need sex, you need to marry. I did a video called What's Love Got to Do with It? You know, I married my wife knowing, yeah, there's certain things I'd like her to do for me, but I can't control her. I can't dominate her, but I can love her and meet her needs, and believe me, she's meeting mine. I'm a very contented, happy man because of my wife's love. I'm meeting her needs. Then they may be somewhat different than mine. She's meeting my needs. That's love. I know my wife loves me if she never had to say it because she shows me, but it's very important to tell the person you're married to that you love them. So I've got a lot more of this stinking thinking that I want to cover, and I want to kind of clear the air of that. But we'll have to do that in upcoming videos. This is the end of part 1. Stay tuned to this channel soon for number 2 of this series, All Filipinas Are Scammers, and other stinking thinking right here on Love Beyond the Sea.